from the hum. I've always found comfort in routine. The predictable cadence of the night shift at Lakeside Motel provided a peaceful rhythm. Until tonight. The motel sits on the edge of town, a single-story horseshoe of rooms facing a parking lot that slopes gently toward the lake. Built in the 1970s and barely updated since, it retains a certain charm in its wood-paneled office and faded teal doors. During tourist season, we're full most nights, but November brings a welcome emptiness. Tonight, we have just 3 rooms occupied, all by regulars, traveling salesmen who prefer our quiet establishment to the highway chains. The night shift is simple. Man the desk until midnight, then lock up and patrol the property every 2 hours until dawn. The owner, Mrs. Harmon, lives in the attached residence but rarely interferes. Perfect for a graduate student like me, offering ample time to study between rounds. I arrived at 10 p.m. as usual, relieving Diane with our typical exchange of pleasantries. She mentioned the guest in room 8 had requested extra towels and that the ice machine was making that noise again. Nothing unusual. By 11:30, I'd finished my assigned reading and was organizing the mail when I first noticed it. A low, persistent hum, barely audible beneath the drone of the ancient heating system. I dismissed it as the temperamental ice machine and returned to my textbook. Midnight came. I locked the office door, flipped the sign to "Ring Bell for Service," and began my first patrol. The November air carried a biting chill, and mist rose from the lake in ethereal tendrils. The parking lot lights cast sickly yellow pools that failed to meet, creating islands of illumination in a sea of shadow. 3 cars occupied the lot: a sedan outside room 3, a pickup truck at room 8, and a compact car near room 12. I checked each door, making sure they were secure, and examined the vending area. The ice machine hummed normally. Yet the other sound persisted, a subtle vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Back in the office, I tried to focus on my studies, but the hum had become impossible to ignore. It wasn't mechanical, it was too organic, too irregular in its cadence, almost like breathing. I adjusted the thermostat, thinking perhaps the heating system was malfunctioning, but the sound remained unchanged. 2 a.m., time for another patrol. The mist had thickened, obscuring the lake entirely. As I stepped outside, I noticed something odd. The cars had changed positions. The sedan now sat outside room 5, the pickup near room 10, and the compact car beside room 1. I blinked, certain I was mistaken. Guests don't typically move their vehicles in the middle of the night. I approached the sedan cautiously. It was the same make and model I'd seen earlier, down to the small dent in the rear bumper. Yet I was certain it had been parked elsewhere. I checked my notes. Yes, room 3, not room 5. The hum grew louder outside, vibrating in my chest. I hastened through my patrol, fighting the sensation of being watched. The lakeside rooms were particularly unsettling, their windows reflecting nothing but darkness, as if the glass opened onto a void rather than rooms. When I reached room 8, I paused. The door was ajar, just slightly. I called out, "Hello? Management here? Is everything all right?" No response. Protocol dictated I should check on the guest, but something held me back, an instinctive reluctance that prickled at the base of my spine. Instead, I gently pushed the door closed until I heard the latch click and continued my rounds. Back in the office, I checked the register. Room 8, Mr. Peterson. Checked in yesterday, due to check out tomorrow. A regular. I considered calling Mrs. Harmon, but decided against disturbing her. Mr. Peterson had probably just stepped out for a cigarette and failed to close his door properly. The hum persisted, now accompanied by a subtle modulation that almost resembled words. I turned the radio on to drown it out, but the static-filled frequencies only seemed to amplify the sound. I switched it off. The clock read 3:15 a.m. when the office phone rang, startling me from my uneasy reverie. "Lakeside Motel, how may I help you?" My voice sounded foreign to my ears. Silence on the line, save for that same humming sound now unmistakably coming through the receiver. "Hello?" I repeated. A voice finally responded, distorted as if speaking underwater. "I need more towels." "Room number, please?" 8, the word stretched unnaturally. I swallowed hard. "I'll bring them right away, Mr. Peterson." I gathered fresh towels from the supply closet, my hands trembling slightly. The rational part of my mind insisted this was normal. Guests request towels all the time, yet something felt profoundly wrong. Outside, the mist had become so dense I could barely see 10 feet ahead. The hum enveloped me, seeming to emanate from the ground itself. The cars had moved again, now arranged in a perfect line facing the office. Headlights dark, but somehow watchful. I approached room 8. The door was closed now, but a thin line of light escaped from beneath it. I knocked softly. "Towel service?" I called, my voice swallowed by the mist. The door opened a crack, revealing darkness beyond. No light, despite what I'd seen from outside. A hand emerged, pale with elongated fingers that seemed too numerous, too fluid in their movement. It took the towels, and the door closed before I could glimpse the occupant. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the ground, a small silver key. The room key to room 8, which should have been inside with Mr. Peterson. I picked it up, its metal unnaturally cold against my skin. Back in the office, I tried to rationalize what I'd seen. Tricks of the mist, fatigue playing havoc with my perception. I checked the register again and froze. Room 8 was listed as vacant. I flipped back through the pages. Mr. Peterson had indeed been a regular, but his last stay was recorded 3 weeks ago. The phone rang again. I answered with a dry mouth. "Did you find it?" The same distorted void. "Find what?" I managed to ask. "What I left for you, outside your door." I hadn't checked the office door since returning. Slowly, I turned toward it. Through the glass panel, I could see something hanging from the handle. A small, dark object, swinging gently, though there was no breeze. "I have to go," I whispered, hanging up. The hum had become a physical presence now, vibrating through the walls. I approached the door cautiously. Hanging from the handle was a motel key attached to a plastic fob, room 8. But I was holding the key to room 8. I looked down at my hand. The key was gone. The rational explanations I'd been constructing collapsed. I grabbed the master key from the desk drawer and the emergency flashlight. Whatever was happening, I needed to check room 8 again. Outside, the mist had developed a strange luminosity, glowing faintly from within. The parked cars were gone entirely. The hum had resolved into a chant-like rhythm, words just beyond comprehension. Room 8's door stood wide open now, a perfect rectangle of darkness against the glowing mist. My flashlight beam disappeared into it, absorbed rather than reflected. I stood frozen at the threshold, every instinct screaming to retreat. "Hello?" My voice sounded small and insignificant. The humming stopped abruptly, leaving a silence so complete it rang in my ears. Then, from within the darkness, came a sound like water dripping onto a hot surface. A slow, deliberate sizzle. Something moved in the darkness. Not toward me, but away, retreating deeper into what should have been a small motel room, but now felt cavernous. My flashlight beam caught a glimpse of it, a tall, thin silhouette with too many angles, its head turned at an impossible angle to fix me with a gaze I felt rather than saw. It smiled. I'm certain of that, though I saw no face, just the impression of a widening grin that contained multitudes. "You opened the door," it said, its voice is the source of the hum that had tormented me all night. "You weren't supposed to do that yet." I stumbled backward, dropping the flashlight. It rolled into the room, illuminating a floor that rippled like the surface of the lake. The door slammed shut, taking my flashlight with it. I ran back to the office, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The mist parted before me and sealed behind me, as if allowing my passage but preventing retreat. Inside, I called Mrs. Harmon's emergency line. No answer. I tried the police, but the line emitted only that same humming sound. The clock read 3:15 a.m., exactly the same time as when the phone had first rung. Dawn seemed impossibly distant. I huddled behind the desk, watching as the mist pressed against the windows, its glow pulsating in rhythm with the hum that now filled the office. The door handle turned slowly, though I had locked it. Once, twice, then stopped. Instead, a wet, slithering sound came from the ceiling vent. Something was working its way through the building's ventilation system, moving with deliberate patience. I'm writing this now at what the clock still insists is 3:15 a.m., though I've been here for what feels like hours. The vent cover has begun to bulge outward. The hum has resolved into words I finally understand. An ancient invitation. A welcome to something that has waited in the space between the lake and this motel since long before either existed. They say the lake was once a quarry, and before that, a site of rituals older than the town itself. Mrs. Harmon mentioned it once, explaining why room 8 was so often vacant despite our limited inventory. "Some places remember," she'd said, "and some guests return, whether we check them in or not." The vent cover has fallen to the floor. The hum is inside the room with me now, and I realize with a clarity that chills me beyond fear that I've always been in room 8. The office, the patrols, the entire night, all within its expanding dimensions. The motel is merely the threshold, and I've been crossing it again and again since the moment I arrived. The clock still reads 3:15 a.m. It always will. Someone is checking in. I need to welcome them. After all, that's my job.